What if I showed you places so unreal your brain would refuse to believe they actually exist? Cities that look like they were designed in a video game, painted by an artist, or generated by AI, yet real people live there every single day. From mud skyscrapers rising out of the desert to rainbow-colored mountains and entire towns built underground, these places don't just look unusual, they look completely fake. In this video, we're exploring cities that look fake but are 100% real. And trust me, some of these will genuinely make you question reality. Shibam, Yemen, the Manhattan of the desert. Standing in Yemen's Hadramaut Valley, Shibam looks like someone dropped a cluster of skyscrapers into the desert and forgot to add anything else around it. This ancient city is made entirely of mud brick towers, some reaching 11 stories high, all packed tightly together on flat, barren land. From a distance, it genuinely looks like a modern city skyline, except it was built over 1,000 years ago. The towers were designed for defense, rising high, so families could escape flooding and enemy attacks. Shibam is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and people still live in those same mud towers today, climbing wooden staircases and looking out over the same desert their ancestors did. If you saw a photo of it without context, you would swear it was a scene from a fantasy film. Hallstatt, Austria, the village that looks like a postcard. Hallstatt is almost painfully beautiful, tucked along a glassy alpine lake surrounded by sharp mountain peaks with rows of colorful centuries-old houses stacked perfectly along the water. It looks like AI generated the most idealized European village possible. The colors are too perfect, the reflections in the lake are too still. Everything seems designed by someone who had never seen reality. But Hallstatt is very real, and it is one of the oldest salt mining towns in the world, inhabited for over 7,000 years. It became so famous from online photos that a Chinese company built an exact replica of it in Guangdong province, copying every detail. Still, even the copy does not come close to the original. The tiny village of around 700 residents sees millions of tourists every year, all trying to photograph a place that, even in person, does not look entirely real. Bern, Switzerland, the city under the arcades. Most cities have a few covered walkways. Bern has 6 kilometers of them running continuously through its medieval center. Every major street in the Old Town is lined with stone archways and covered colonnades, meaning you can walk from one end to the other in heavy rain without ever opening an umbrella. These arcades were built starting in the 12th century so merchants could move through the city in all weather. The uniform sandstone buildings, the towers at the end of each main street, the mechanical clock called the 𝐤𝐤𝐿 that has been running since 1530, the painted medieval fountains placed every few hundred meters. Bern also sits above a deep bend in the Aire River, which wraps around 3 sides of the Old Town like a natural moat. In summer, locals jump into the river upstream and float around the bend back into the city. The combination of perfectly preserved medieval architecture and casual modern life makes Bern feel like a fantasy novel set in the present day. Coober Pedy, Australia, the underground town. Coober Pedy in South Australia looks fake from the moment you arrive because there is almost nothing to see above ground. The landscape is flat, dry, and covered in pale mounds of excavated dirt. But underground, an entire town is running. Shops, hotels, churches, homes, galleries, even a museum, all carved directly into the rock beneath the desert surface. The town was built this way because surface temperatures in summer regularly exceed 50 degrees Celsius. Underground homes, called dugouts, stay at a comfortable 25 degrees year-round with no air conditioning. Some are surprisingly luxurious, with vaulted sandstone ceilings and full modern amenities. Coober Pedy also produces over 70% of the world's opals. Signs warn visitors not to walk around at night because you could fall into an unmarked mine shaft. The name comes from an Aboriginal term meaning white man in a hole. About 1,700 residents from over 40 nationalities call this alien landscape home. Positano, Italy, the town that defies gravity. Positano clings to a cliff on the Amalfi Coast in a way that makes you genuinely wonder about the physics involved. Buildings stack directly on top of each other, each rooftop becoming the terrace of the house above it, running all the way from the water's edge up a near vertical mountain. The colors are warm, the sea is impossibly blue, and the whole town is connected by staircases and narrow paths rather than roads. Most of it is inaccessible to cars, and deliveries are made by hand. Living in Positano means walking hundreds of steps every time you come home. The town became famous after John Steinbeck described it in 1953 as a dream place that is not quite real when you are there. That description still holds today. Standing on a narrow balcony looking down at fishing boats on turquoise water and lemon trees growing from cracks in the cliffs, it is genuinely hard to convince yourself you are in the same world as an office building or a parking lot. Wrocław, Poland, the city of gnomes. Wrocław is a beautiful Central European city with a colorful old town square, Gothic churches, and dozens of bridges. But what makes it feel slightly surreal is the gnomes. There are over 350 small bronze gnome statues placed throughout the city, each about the size of a shoebox, each doing something different. There is a gnome firefighter, a gnome dentist, a gnome sleeping on a bench, a gnome riding a tiny bicycle, a gnome stuck in an ATM. They hide in doorways, perch on drain pipes, and sit in flower beds. The gnomes started as a political protest during the communist era, when an activist movement painted small gnome symbols around the city to mock authorities. The police found it difficult to arrest people for painting cartoons. After communism fell, the gnomes became a symbol of the city's humor and resilience. In 2001, the first permanent bronze gnome was placed, and the collection has been growing ever since. Walking through Wrocław, you keep catching small bronze figures going about their tiny business, making the whole city feel like it is in on a joke nobody has fully explained. These cities prove that reality can be far stranger and far more beautiful than anything we can imagine. From surreal landscapes to unbelievable architecture, they challenge what we think is even possible on this planet. Which one looked the most unreal to you? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around, because there are many more incredible places like these still to discover.